Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Labco Fitness episode number 7. Today,
Is it 7?
I have with me, it's 7, dude.
Wow.
As usual, Joshua freaking Nadaman,
What's up?
and Jayed Muhammad. That's me.
I was very late in giving myself a very self-deprecating subtitle, which should be the cautionary tale. So for people who don't know, I just had my bicep tendon reattached. I'll show Yad. So that's my surgical scar here. And then we'll
looks cool.
get that on. It is definitely not cool enough to get one of your own. That I can tell you. And we'll get to that. In fact, we'll address that first real quick. So basically, the deal is... you know how I always say, never go into the gym without a plan, never do things you're not ready for, and take a very slow, steady approach to your progressions? Well, I basically didn't do any of those things. So it was not very smart. I was not thinking. But we just finished a bunch of construction work in the lab, and everything was really good. This was back in February. And yeah, late February. And I was doing a straight arm assistance exercise with barbell. And I typically use like just the empty barbell for that. And then I happened to be using about double that weight. And first set was fine, no pain. And then the second set on the third rep, right down at the bottom of the rep, there was just a sudden, very large popping, tearing. You know, it wasn't loud, but I felt the entire forearm come apart, basically, is what it felt like. And I knew it was all fucked up. So I was hoping that it was something a little different than it was, and it didn't present in a normal way. My tendon, so apparently I have a good bit of scar tissue in my elbow, which is not surprising considering all the things that have happened over the years with SEAL training and all that crap. But the scar tissue held the tendon in place. So it didn't pull up. I did not have the reverse Popeye.
The Popeye,
Well, it's a reverse Popeye, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have that. It all looked the same. I actually still had full supination strength and everything, which is really weird because there was no bicep to help. But
would you say that actually helped, the scar tissue?
In this case,
prognosis?
Well, considering how long it took me to get into surgery, yes. Probably. Accidents happen, you know? Don't go making yourself scarred up. Train smart. Don't get hurt.
Don't do that.
Yeah, but the point is that, you know, we're going to be having some very particular guidelines about form. And there are things that I've realized, just like when I tore my meniscus squatting a long time ago. There are things that you don't realize that you're doing unless somebody makes you aware of them. And since I had nobody around... you know, there's no way for anybody to notice. And these are things that aren't going to be on your mind. So like the big one is you just pretend like this is my straight arm position. And that this is the plane of force. So I'm going to turn so that I'm more like lined up with the camera. Mm-hmm. So, you don't want the inside of your elbow to be essentially closer to the ground than the outside. You want you want to be somewhat internally rotated, and you want to be honestly, you do not want to be fully supinated. And the reason for that is that you want all the structures, passive and active, to be able to give, you know, equal support is a bad way to say it, but that's the idea. Is you want to spread the force around. You don't want any one structure to get overloaded beyond, you know, what it absolutely has to be. And so that's the big thing. You don't want your medial and lateral epicondyle to be perfectly perpendicular to what you're pressing against. You want the lateral epicondyle to be slightly closer, which means internal rotation. And we'll have videos that explain that more carefully. But the idea is that you shouldn't feel any particular strain. And the other thing is that with the elbow, the pronator muscles actually give you a lot of support at the ulnar collateral ligament. They're a huge part of preventing injuries there. And so that matters for iron cross training. So these are some previews for things that, it just reminded me that I need to be aware of. I need to be making sure that as we're moving forward, we teach these things, and, just making sure that we are showing people how to be stronger, be safer, and keep moving forward. Like, I would prefer not to make the mistakes at all, but
Yeah, that would be the best thing.
Yeah, it's too late for me. I'm also old, and the thing is, this probably wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. And that's another thing that's, very important to realize. And there's the bottom line is that there's a reason why we have like a variety of guidances, and there's certain things that are always there. Like, you should always take your time. You should never be pushing. You should be having planned progression, and when you meet that progression for the day, you walk away. And that's how you keep getting stronger. There are limited instances, and we will define them very specifically, when it is okay to actually push as hard as you can and go all the way to failure. That's a great way to get hurt, and the older you are, the more true that is. And once you're in your late 20s, you got to pay close attention to that. That's a lot earlier than people think, but even in the early 20s, like, you're not a teenager anymore, and you still feel like it. You still have the brain of a teenager, basically. And, you're stronger. You've had more time to train, but you're already not recovering quite as well. And it's not enough for you to notice, but it's enough for injuries to build up. And so being smart is a big part of moving forward. And that's a big thing that, has already been a part of what we're doing, but is going to continue to be emphasized and more carefully defined so that you know how to do it without needing to understand all the whys.
Well put, my sir. That was good. Yeah. We've learned from your mistakes, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you for making those mistakes.
Well,
have you seen the last
I guess
episode?
I should say you're welcome.
Have you seen the last Game of Thrones episode?
I haven't watched anything of the new season. No spoilers.
No, we will not talk about that. Moving on to the questions.
I've also not seen the new the Avengers Endgame. All I've heard
we will
is
not
that
talk. I've seen
beautiful.
everything.
Yeah. So all I know is that it's all
it.
good, and I haven't seen any of it because.
Also, for the listeners, we will not spoil here. We're a good podcast. We're not the type of podcast that does that. Okay. So, moving on to the question. This first question is from Joeri van Hoek. He asks, what are the best general health exercises one should at least regularly perform in order to prevent future exercise-related injuries? These will be in part training-related, but what are those that everyone should do regardless of training style? I'm thinking of back raise, face pulls, etc. Thanks. So basically, prehab exercises for...
Well, this question is really asking about the most non-specific general physical preparation you could do. And so, that's just going to bring us to the most basic of all exercises. I mean, good back extensions, good push-ups, good pull-ups, preferably a good overhead press, and a good row. So you're all your basic planes of motion. And I mean,
should be good.
Yeah, like, and I would say that some just real mild daily rotator cuff work. We're not talking about 20 minutes for your rotator cuff. We're talking about 2 minutes in the morning and like 2 minutes in the evening. Yeah, it doesn't sound like that much, and people, they write it off without ever trying it. And the thing is, the funny thing is that when you have somebody who has a torn labrum and they're an overhead athlete, like a volleyball player or a tennis player, where it's a lot easier to lift overhead slowly than it is to create explosive movements overhead. It's much, much easier on the shoulder to just lift something overhead. I mean, you can have a labrum tear, and a lot of people can still do overhead presses and bench presses without too much difficulty, with just a little bit of rehab. But overhead athletes will have to have surgery unless they do daily rotator cuff. If they do daily rotator cuff stuff, we're talking about maybe 10 minutes total a day. Then for almost, I won't say almost all, but a huge majority tend to have zero problems. It's almost like they'll start forgetting to do their exercises because they don't hurt anymore, because they don't have any symptoms of their injuries anymore. So, I definitely think that just some mild rotator cuff stuff is a fair game answer. And then your basic core work, just real simple, like I would say hanging knee raises done properly and McGill's sit-ups. And then, we can make a list for everything. If you want three things, it should be a squat, a deadlift, because those are the two things that you need throughout life and in old age. And if you wanted to add a third, I honestly think that an overhead press or an incline press is probably the next best thing, because you're not pulling yourself up things half as much as you're reaching. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just daily life. Your dishes are above your head most of the time. Food, things in the cabinets, there's all kinds of stuff that's up here. There's things on the top shelves of grocery stores and so on and so forth, And if I wanted to add a fourth, it would definitely be the pull-up. I mean, if there's going to be four, I would say squat, deadlift, overhead press, and pull-ups. And, everything else kind of gets in. And anybody can stop in here and just be an asshole by saying, oh, well, honestly, I think that for athletes, you should probably do like a kettlebell swing. Look, we can make a long list of wonderful exercises. It's almost endless. We're talking about basic strength for setting the stage for learning more explosive, more advanced things. General prep is still very specific to each individual sport and even each position within a sport. So you have to know a lot to do that well. To be as non-specific as possible, you just got to zoom all the way out and say, I want to preserve my shoulder range of motion. I want to learn how to stabilize my spine and lift things up. And I want to make sure that my hips stay strong. I think if you do those three things, essentially, there's four things, the pull up, the overhead press, the squat, and the deadlift, you're going to cover more of your bases than with any other four things. There's going to be some jerk out there who's like, well, you could do, like a clean and press, and then it would be one exercise that does everything. And, well, that's still a squat and an overhead press and a deadlift. So I don't really care how you do it. Just make sure you're doing those things, and that's the thing. As you get better and you learn things, you can switch over and say, well, I don't care about getting stronger right now. I just want to stay fit and keep myself in decent shape. So I'm just going to do a power clean from the floor, and then I'm going to front squat it, and then I'm going to overhead press it. And, you just did everything right there. And, then you have time now to add in push-ups or bench press in a row and some pull-ups. So, I mean, there's an order to things. So it's a hard question to answer perfectly because there is no perfect answer. It kind of depends on where you're at. You know what I mean? Yeah, but it's very simple. I mean, I think you want an overhead press, you want to pull, and you want a hip hinge, and you want a knee hinge. And that's kind of like, and you want to make sure that you're doing things that teach your body to stabilize the lower back, and by using the abdominals correctly. And you do those things, you're going to be okay.
Cool. Moving on to the next question by Alexander Chaney. Minimalism is a large topic these days, and doing the least amount of exercises that provide the largest carryover is often discussed. Are there any exercises that come to mind that have huge carryover to most activities and other exercises that people should look to program in their training?
Yeah.
Compounds.
Yeah, exactly. Your basic compound movements. And if we were going to get real picky, it would be the incline press, the weighted pull-up, and I would say a conventional deadlift if I only had to go with three. I would prefer to have a Romanian deadlift or a stiff leg deadlift, whatever you want to call it, which is predominantly hips, and then a front squat or a high bar back squat, which is predominantly knee flexion and extension with a fair bit of hips. But those things, that really that covers so many bases. The only thing that I think you could add to that is like a split squat, and that's because the demands are very different and the lateral hip musculature is asked to do more. But they're very similar. There's a lot of overlap. So I mean, some kind of a squat, some kind of a deadlift, some kind of a pull-up, and preferably an incline press, because everything you do in sports is like this, for people who are watching the video, is you're never pushing somebody forward, pushing down. You're never even doing it standing straight up. You always have to be leaning forward. You need your feet behind your center of mass, or you fall over backwards. You just push yourself over. So you have to be leaning forward. So if your arms are pointing forward, right? And you're leaning forward and you keep your arms there and then you sit up. Oh, look at that. It's an incline press. Surprise. So that's punching. That's football. That's pushing people. That's just doing warehouse work. Like, no matter what you're thinking
Yeah,
of,
you're right. I'm just trying to think of something where you're doing decline, but there's
you are like
nothing.
getting up off the ground, hopping up over a fence. All those things are decline. But,
But you don't need to be super strong for that.
that's what I'm
'Cause
saying.
usually
You're going to get
it's
that
your own
strength.
body weight.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's also your own body weight usually when you do that.
Yeah, if you're strong in incline press, you're going to be fine. Like, you
Yeah,
will
yeah.
be fine. Will you be a decline press champion? No. Will you be plenty strong? Yes. So that's kind of like that would be my short list. There's others, but I mean, it's we could again, it can go on forever. But if you want to be real basic about it, that's
Yeah.
it. There are people who
Yeah.
will say, "Well, I'd rather do flat bench." Cool, do flat bench. I don't care. I'm not, I'm not going to tell you not to do what you want to do. I'm just saying, push something in front of you, pull something behind you, use your hips, use your knees. Don't let your back be a
That's it,
limp
yeah.
noodle in the process. That's as simple as it gets.
All right,
know?
moving on to the next question by Colin Davis.
hmm
He asks two things. The first thing is, can you guys weigh in on the shoulder girdle benefits of performing handstand wall runs or shoulder taps? I am in Str Cycle 1 and I'm considering them as a part of a finisher.
You certainly
Well,
can. I mean, it's a partial overhead motion. I don't think that they're anywhere near as good as people think that they are. I think that they are fun, but they are. So here's the thing. Most
Yeah.
people who get a lot out of those don't do very much overhead pressing. So if your overhead pressing is in place, then they become a lower priority.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want to be really good at them and win a challenge, you should definitely do them. The problem with them is that if you haven't already developed a good control over your body in a handstand and in an overhead press, then you're going to end up arching your back and actually building bad habits. And it may not matter, but if you want to eventually have a good one-arm handstand and things like that, then I think that you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, if you do them slow and you make sure that you're having good control, that's fine. So, but that's more like a handstand march, right?
Yeah, it's like leaning.
Yeah, taking your time. You're up, and then you brace, and then you shift the weight and bring your hand down and go up. So you're basically just doing wall one arm handstands. It's really all that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, is there value to that? Absolutely. You'll see that in most good one-arm handstand programs in some way. And I'm saying just the wall-supported one-arm handstand. If this is the way that you want to try and do it, I guess more power to you.
I mean, it's not bad, but it's also not very super good. It's basically do it if you want.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. If you have fun, you feel like you get a lot out of it, and you enjoy it, then I do not want to discourage that. I just don't want people to come away from this thinking, "Oh, I'm not doing those. I should start."
No, exactly. His second question was, will the yacht hold and yacht assistant exercises give me some gains in my freestanding handstand? I throw in some handstand holds against the wall using yacht's technique from the video, but still have trouble with sticking the kick up. So for the first question, if you want to get better at kicking up without the wall, just do that more often.
Yeah,
Practice without the wall more often.
And the one thing that I'll say on that is that you should not think of it as a kick. You should think of it as trying to stand on the sky. And you also need to be thinking,
that's pretty good.
You know what I mean? That's what helped me. The two things that helped me was you're not reaching down, you're rotating on the hip. And the second thing so bend the support leg a little bit. And so that you can touch the ground, just like you would do in a bent leg pike. That should be your kick up. And then instead of swinging in a circle, you want to think like, oh, I'm trying to reach my feet up into the sky, like the top of the sky. And if you do those two things, you're going to quickly get good.
I'm trying to think of a different way of explaining it, because basically a mistake that a lot of people make is they let their glutes basically relax, and then their feet goes over their.
See, to me, that just I hate those explanations.
I hate it. I know,
but here's the thing: somebody out there is going to benefit from it, so go for it.
Yeah, no. But what I'm trying to say is, you want to think from the hips. rather than from the feet is what I always
or
work
from the
for me.
hands.
Or from the hands. You know, because your hands is where you're rotating from. You know, that's where.
Well, you think the problem is like you're not punching the ground with your hands.
No.
You know what I mean? You should just be rotating around the hips so that your hands lightly come in contact with the ground. And then your hips are still kind of in the same place. Now your hands stop moving because they're on the ground. And so the legs now rotate around the hips. But you don't want to be thinking about them, you know, swinging in a circle. You want to be thinking that just like when you reach down and touch the ground with bent arms and then stand up, you want to be thinking, well, now I'm doing the same thing. I'm just straightening my body back out. You know, I'm just doing it at speed. Yeah. It's not going to be perfect. At first, you're going to feel the back arch because you're going to go too far. And you're going to feel, you know, the legs have too much momentum. That's a fine-tuning thing that you're not going to learn by listening to us. The only way you're going to learn it is doing exactly what Yad said. Get out there and practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Repetition is key. And I want to add one more thing.
And use minimum force. That's the key.
Yeah. One more thing. I want to add two things, actually. Two things that actually help me. The first one is the scissor technique, which is basically when you want to split. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm just showing it in the camera. So you want to, when you pop in, you want to actually hold a split and then close your legs again, like a front split.
Yeah, and don't exaggerate it. But
don't exaggerate it.
But the thought process is, I think is good because
a lot of
the
people
leg motions counterbalance.
Exactly. A lot of people just pop in and then their legs join, and then what happens is that creates this momentum that pushes them further, and they fall over.
And the funny thing is, like that's how you'll end up doing it when you're good at it. But what happens is that like the same thing that Yad's telling you to do right now, when you first do it, you'll over exaggerate it, but you're still going to be slowing down the first leg as you go up. Don't overthink things. That's the biggest thing. Don't sit here and play this again and again. Get outside.
No. Just do it.
Yeah.
Your body will learn to do it.
Yeah, it really will. Like just get out there, kick up, hold it for a second, come back down, take a breath, and then do it again. Don't try and do them rapid fire.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to add.
Do them like all day long. I mean, like I used to do them between every class. I'd go out and I would kick up, 10 to 20 times between each class. And
just make sure you warm up your wrist though.
Yeah, if you need to. Like, so I was so strong back then, that it didn't bother me. But if
I was so young back then. When
you were a lot lighter, yeah.
Yeah. But now I can't do that.
No, and that's where, I think just like you were saying in your article, wear the wrist wraps, bring them with you. Put your wrist wraps on. Protect yourself.
But do know that balancing on wrist wraps is going to be different.
It will.
So when you take them off and then you go, don't be afraid. It just takes like 5 holds to get back into it.
Yeah.
You just really need to recalibrate. So don't be like, oh no, I fucked up. I only did it with the wrist wraps. Now I can't do it without. No, just do a few of them and then you're fine.
It's just going to be a little bit different. Yeah. The feeling will be different. The skill is the same. You'll get used to it.
It's
it
just
won't take very long.
The balance spot feels a little bit different. One thing I do want to add is when you're doing the kick-ups, what I had my students do back when I was like 17, so I was teaching back then at a class, and I would have them do just a bunch of kick-ups. I wanted to do repetition after repetition, and I wanted them to have a ratio of falling over and falling back of one at one. So meaning if you did 10 kick-ups, out of those 10 times, I want 5 of them to be you falling, under balancing, and 5 of them over balancing. And this is like super beginners. And
however you want to say, if you do that, do it in grass or something that won't hurt you.
Yeah. So we had mats. So we had mats when we did that.
Yeah. Your goal should not be to fall.
No, it shouldn't be to fall. But it's like if you mess up, it shouldn't be because you're underbalancing. It's because you slightly overbalanced.
No, that's true. And so to that, and so that is a good point. Is that the one thing you can't be afraid of is putting in power. Otherwise, you'll say, "God, I can never get up." So the first thing to do is learn how to do a simple forward roll with the chin tuck.
Yes, safety first.
Yeah,
learn that or the cartwheel or both of them. The more you can do, the better.
Well, the best, I think the forward roll is nice because then you don't have to break your line, and then if you overbalance, you just turn it into a roll. In fact, you do that on purpose first, and that takes things more in a gymnastic direction.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say that's how they teach the gymnastics.
Yeah,
but the reason why I teach it like that is because what happens is people who always underbalance, they never get there because they're always underbalancing.
That's because they're too afraid.
And the people who always overbalance, they never get to learn to, chill the hell down and kick up, less powerfully. And so if they keep that ratio of 1:1. I only do this for beginners. Eventually, they find that middle spot, and that's the balance spot. When you
Yep.
hop in and hold it. Just a little thing that works for some people. I just had all my students do it because I had too many. So I'd be like,
well, when you have the mats, why not?
Yeah, I had the mats, so why not? Exactly.
And because a lot of times with those classes, you're going to warm up with some rolls anyway. So
yeah, I always did wrist first, just like in an article, and then I would teach them first rolls. So I had the beginners, I taught them the rolls, and then I had them join the other guys with the kick-ups. We would basically be doing 10 minutes or 20 minutes of kick-ups, and after like a month of only 1 hour of training every week, most of them had like 10-second, 20-second handstands.
Oh yeah, dude, it comes so fast. But
this is not even daily training.
And, yeah, it's like then you don't have to keep doing it like that either, because now you can kick up. So now you can just start doing things more often. You don't have to do the whole ratio thing because your body has learned. And then, so it's like there's these moments where, a lot of the questions that we get are, and we don't have like sort of a developmental area yet. And one of the things that I think will really help down the line is just making sure that people know that the guidelines that are in the programming block you're doing are less important than just taking your time and learning the exercise.
Exactly.
So you have to, that comes first. And you have to put gains secondary to mastering your exercises. And that's a lot of what this whole thing is about. Just like what Yad's saying with the handstands and everything else, like with the overhead press, with squats.
You need repetition. You need to learn, but also
here's
do the reps. But
sometimes you have to do things that aren't very good for hypertrophy. Like you might need to do a 10-second eccentric just so that your body has time to say, "Shit, this is where I usually go wrong. Let me just get it right and hold it here for 10 seconds, then go back up. Maybe I'll practice that for a week." Because once it's done and you've relearned, you no longer have to waste that time. So it wasn't wasted. You actually saved yourself months or years of inefficient training,
bro. Yeah, it's an investment.
Yeah.
It's no, you should definitely do that.
It's just like when I used to fight, there like for the first 2 weeks that I went to Tommy Gant's boxing gym down in on Peachtree Street in downtown Atlanta, I didn't throw a punch for like 2 or 3 hours almost every day. I was on 2 lines of tape that were about 10 or 12 inches apart. And it was hold your hands like this. And I'm not showing it, but just they said, look, hold your hands up. This is where they belong. And you're going to take a step forward. And then you're going to take a step back. And you're going to take a step forward. And when you feel like you got that, you're going to just walk forward. Your toes have to stay on the line. And when you walk back, your toes have to stay on the line. And you're just going to walk up and down this tape, son. And
reminds me of Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off.
Here's the thing. There's like 12 rings in this big ass warehouse. And like you hear people hitting pads like with dynamite. And, there's like 8 or 10 speed bags. And they're all flying. There's a ton of fighters in there. And, here I am in a damn corner in front of a mirror walking on tape. And I didn't even question it. I said, all right. And you know what? My footwork was always good because I did all that boring crap for a couple of weeks just to set the stage. And then all of a sudden I was able to pivot and move and slip. And when I did my rope drills, it was good. And when we started bringing that into the ring and hitting pads, and then I'm sparring, and all of a sudden like gloves are here and here instead, like sliding past, touching my ear, not my face. I'm in there. You know what I mean? Like you can't, people want to just practice that right away. And it's like, bro, you got to refine the basics first. And that's the same thing.
Have you seen Hajime no Ippo?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think I've seen I know I've seen the first 2 series. I've seen some of the third, but I don't think I've seen all of it.
Your story reminds me of that. We know with the leaves and everything.
But
then he messes up because the other guy did it with 2 hands. He did it with 1 hand. Eventually the guy was like, "Holy crap!" No, the whole thing was awesome. I like watching stuff like that. It really motivates me to train.
Yeah, and it's good to be patient because those boring moments don't last forever.
Yeah,
they really don't, especially not with lifting.
All right, let's move on to the next question. We kind of sidetracked there. This one is from Luca Vabricotti.
Okay.
Hello guys, great work. Thank you. I just want to start a cut phase, and I have a few questions. First one is, Which ratio of fat muscle loss is reasonable considering a 25% calorie deficit and assuming 3 grams of protein per kilogram?
Oh, it would be almost all fat if you're lifting right.
All fat loss? Oh, yeah. Only 3
Almost,
grams
yeah.
per kilogram.
At
Yeah.
that, it'd be essentially 100% fat.
Assuming you're doing
That's
like
even
a
in
mass
elite.
kind
That's
of
even in elite track athletes. I mean, if you're talking
Really?
about if you're talking about like pro bodybuilder who's already carrying more mass than they're capable of, without steroids and all this stuff, that's kind of a different story. But it's still almost all fat. Like it's the vast majority is fat. Same thing's true for like your natural bodybuilders. I mean, it's like so. Okay, when I went from 232 to 205, because that was my range. I was obviously my strongest at 232. I was like 12% body fat there, and I was somewhere around 6 or 7% when I was at 205, and my lean body mass went down by about 10 pounds. My fat mass went down by, a little over 20. So, that would be if you're already carrying basically as much muscle as your body is capable of carrying for what you're doing. So you got to realize that my fat-free mass index was like 27 point something, and I was running an hour 5 days a week. Yeah, I was doing things because I still wanted to go back to Navy SEAL training,
That makes sense.
So
okay.
That was the thing, is that I was running 10 miles in an hour for, every single, I mean, not every day, but almost every day. And then I would also spend some more time on the elliptical I was still doing a ton of cardio. I mean, I was doing like at least 6 to 8 hours of cardio a week, and not including the lifting that I was doing, and you do all that cardio, that's an automatic negative against the muscle mass that you have. And that's an epigenetic thing. It's just about knockouts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that, but if I had done things smarter, and if I had just lifted and done a calorie deficit, I think that I would have been like 218 at like 8%. At 6%, I probably would have been like 214, 215. I don't think I would have lost much of anything. And that's the thing that you got to realize, is that some of it's how you do it. If you're just controlling your food and lifting properly and doing because I mean, you got to realize I was doing very high intensity cardio. So if you're doing like a little bit of low intensity cardio, and if you're basically doing circuit training and heavy lifting, then you're really not going to lose much of any muscle, even if you're at your genetic max. You're just going to drop body fat.
Let's talk a little bit about proper training. What do you mean? Do you mean like some people
you're basically doing a mass cycle with a calorie
exactly
deficit.
That's what I'm trying to get at. You're doing a mass cycle.
That's how I would do it.
Exactly. No, I was just wanted to point that out to people.
Absolutely.
You gotta be doing the mass cycle if you're gonna cut.
Yeah.
Actually, if you're gonna gain or cut, if you're gonna change something to your body composition, always do a mass cycle.
Yeah, that's basically it. And the really cool thing about trying to drop fat is that when you eat really does not seem to matter at all.
What you eat doesn't matter?
No, I mean, as long as you have the deficit. I'm talking about when.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So nutrient timing is still kind of a big thing. People are understanding now that in general it's less important than they thought. But there are still things that matter. If you want to gain muscle mass as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, you're not going to do it on 2 meals a day. You're going to want 6, 7, 8 meals a day. You're going to want to spread out your calories. You're going to want to stack your calories around your workout. You're going to want to have protein throughout the day. That really, really makes a difference. For fat loss, however, it doesn't seem to matter, which I was very interesting to me. And that's been it's one of those things that you'll see if you follow like Brad Schoenfeld, if you're following Eric Helms, if you're following like Jose Antonio and Alan Aragon and these other high level people. There's a very short list of these guys. Then you're going to see these things pop up every now and again. They don't pop up that often because they really only matter for super high level athletes. And that's not the bro on Instagram. So like, why would you put things out that don't apply to 95% of your listeners? They'll come out every now and again, but for the most part, get your calorie deficit especially with fat loss, just get your calorie deficit and lift. You know,
Yeah, you're right.
whether it's a barbell or your body weight or a weight vest or whatever, lift. Do your mass cycle programming. Make sure you're hitting your muscles at least twice a week. I would spread the volume over 3 days, like 3 times a week per muscle group if possible. But don't overthink that. Just get the lifts in and keep the calories where they belong, and that fat's going to melt off.
Man, cutting so
it's not
easy.
comfortable.
Yeah,
I will tell you. And the extra protein helps because it keeps you from getting hungry.
It keeps exactly.
as much. Yeah, but
I
mean,
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, cutting it's always been so freaking easy for me. Bulking is hell.
Most people have that problem because it's uncomfortable to eat more than you're supposed to.
Exactly. It's not, but it's also like a stress reaction. You know, you're trying to go against the grain. Your body's like, why are you trying to gain weight?
Yeah, exactly.
like why are you trying to? You're cool, bro. Why are you trying to gain
force
weight?
it? Well, I hope Brian walks in here at some point. I don't have any way to contact him, but so one of my friends, it was one of the first 2 people that I trained after I came back from the Navy, and he's the one who went from 45 pounds to like 190 in 5 or 6 months.
Oh, that'd be interesting to hear from him. Yeah.
Oh, he was such a beast. It was crazy, but he'll tell you, like me, Andrew, and Brian. We all lived in Andrew's basement. I don't think that everybody knows, is that...
Yeah, you should tell them, yeah.
We went through like 2 rice buckets a day. I'm talking about like whatever the large rice cooker, not the industrial ones, but like the 12-cook rice cooker or whatever it is. I mean,
like 20 kilos?
We would eat... No, I mean like, well, of cooked rice, I don't know.
No, I mean like dry rice.
I think we went through at least 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a day. That's a lot of rice, if people don't know. I mean, because I had them eating every 3 hours. And we had chicken, and we had protein shakes, and we had vegetables, and we had a crap ton of brown rice and white rice when we felt like it. And we made all kinds of stuff. It was good. But we're like, look, you want to gain? We're going to gain, bro. Here's when we're going to take our creatine after the workout. And you're going to have your protein like after the workout, and then again in 2 hours or an hour, and then it's just all the time. And that's what we did. We played video games and we worked out in the middle of the night. And
bro, that's actually like the best way to train.
It was so fun.
Only train.
And you can't do that most of the time. Like I'll never be able to do that again.
It's like you train, and then when you're not training, you're relaxing.
Yeah.
That's the best condition for an athlete.
Yeah. And then we would walk uphill. We would get on the treadmills a couple times a week, and we would walk uphill for like 30 to 60 minutes.
When was this? Did you not study? Or
no, I wasn't in school. I had just come back from the Navy. I was still figuring out how to be a person again.
Well, great way to start, just work out every day.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. And I took them in, and they just ballooned up like beasts. And it was just amazing. And, the thing is that we didn't eat when we were hungry. We ate when the clock said it's time to eat again.
That's the best way, dude.
That's what you got to understand when you're trying to gain.
When you're trying to gain, it's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
It's
about your muscles, and they don't have any way to talk to you. It's not, So you just got to feed them and trust that work plus food equals growth, and it is. That really is how it is. There's no way around it.
People overanalyze it. It's not that hard. Take your protein, take your calories. I don't even care about carbs and fat now.
Right. Doesn't matter where those calories come from. It really, it's whatever works for you. So if you and your best friend do it totally opposite, don't worry about it. Do you?
It's all cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just whatever. Just at least get your protein in, and then we're cool.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next question by Robert Burchell. Mm-hmm. I've been rereading the planche and front lever articles, and I noticed they are referred to as skills. Why do you guys just call them skills when others call them strength elements? For example, OG2, which is like, isn't that Stephen Lowe's book?
That is Stephen Lowe's book. Well, here's the thing. You're not building anything when you do them. So they're not strength training. They are absolutely a skill that requires a high level of strength. So it's all about how you want to think about it. I don't really care. But it's a skill. You have to be able to hold a position. You're balancing. You're holding your body steady. you're doing a lot of things at once. Doesn't seem like it, especially when you're good at it. It feels like you're doing almost nothing. But
would you call planche push-up skills for some people? My answer is for some people.
It is a higher skill strength. Well, here's the thing: everything is a skill to some extent. Everything has a skill component. But
no, exactly.
Here's how instead of focusing on that, I want to approach this from the other direction.
All right.
I want to approach things. The way that I define things is based on how specific they are for learning what you're trying to do, and B, how specific they are for building the foundation of strength and mass that you need to do the things you want to do. So there is the pure skills side. Where do they rate on that? And then there is the pure strength and mass side. Where do they rate on that? And I tend to, because everything has a lot of skills stuff, you can't ever really break it apart. But the strength, the things that are best for strength and mass in general are always going to be the things that are easy to control, easy to load, and in a controlled way, and are giving you the greatest degree of range of motion within safe parameters. And straddle planche, full planche, whatever, that just does not give you the same range of motion as a bench press gives you. So for basic strength, it is less good. For trying to translate the strength that you've built into showing off your planche push-ups, they're much better. Exactly. So do they still require strength? Absolutely. Will they still allow you to build? Absolutely. But you'll notice that no matter how far along you get, there are always going to be cycles that we have that strongly encourage you to step away from those things and put them on absolute minimum maintenance, maybe even a slight loss, and focus heavily on your full range of motion stuff. And the reason for that's pretty simple. Until you get to the point where you're strong enough to do all the world-class stuff, you need strength more than you need skill. You know what I mean? It's a longer road to get there if you try and use your more skill-specific stuff, like the straddle planche push-ups, to build that strength. If you're using them just to continually integrate the strength that you have, while spending most of your time and energy on the basic lifts that are higher leverage and easier to control and give you a better range of motion for all the muscles, you're going to go faster. You're going to get there faster.
So what do you think of this definition? Because this is sort of how I see it. I see it as a contextual thing. So
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say. How do you want to look at it?
Yeah, so a planche push-up can be strength and a strength exercise for some people. For some people, it's a skill exercise.
A planche push-up can be a strength exercise. It's just not going to be as good. Yeah,
exactly. I'm trying to say it's like it depends on how you utilize that exercise. So, for example, I'm strong enough to use straddle planche push-ups in a mass cycle.
Right, but it's still not the best.
It's not the best, depending on your goal. If hypertrophy is your goal, then it's not the best.
Yep.
But for example,
but you're in a mass cycle.
Yeah, but you're in the mass cycle, true. But you could use them. It's not the best for your hypertrophy, even though it's a mass cycle, but it's still good for your skill-specific strength.
Right.
So sometimes you need to, once you're at that level, you need to. I think some people who are a really high level, you just need to do that eventually.
They do. Well, the thing is, that's what I'm saying. That's why the transition happens. You're going to have cycles where you do that. And if you're a competitor, in my opinion, your job is to build the body that can win the competition. And along the way, you want to make sure that you're acquiring skills. But until the body is ready, you really don't have any business focusing too hard on the skills for most of the year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very important. A lot of people just forget about that.
Yeah. If you're bodybuilding, then those skills don't matter that much.
It's also why in our programming, you'll notice in our very first mass cycles and our very first strength cycles, there's very little skill.
Yeah. And there's yeah, sorry,
you shouldn't be. Yeah, you shouldn't be. You should first get it a little bit buffer before you.
So I want to think about it like this. Sometime when you're first starting off, you are not ready for low leverage at all. And we're also starting off from the same basic intelligent process, saying first we want to build the machine. Then we want to acclimate the machine to the specific performance. And you always flip back and forth between those, no matter how high the level gets. If you want to set a new bar and set a new best and create a new standard of excellence, then the better you get at figuring out what do I need to do to maintain just barely enough to be able to kick even more ass next year when it's time to do my skill-specific stuff. So that, for professional sports, is off-season, pre-season, and then early season, post-season. And that's kind of, that's kind of how it works. So I
do have to say that throughout your career, so a beginner, like a real beginner, does a lot of, doesn't do a lot of skill in the beginning, or maybe nothing at all. But as you get, years in, that skill component actually goes up throughout every cycle. But little by little, that's something. Well,
and
that's
it also
important.
depends on what's holding you back.
Exactly. So like, if hypertrophy, if you're
just
fucking
don't need
buff,
that much.
So some people are, also just buff enough.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that's holding them back from doing the things they want to do is doing the things that you're supposed to do.
Right. Right. And that's why, like, if you get to where you're able to, do weighted push-ups with close to double your body weight, meaning like, if you have close to your body weight on your body and you're doing good weighted push-ups there, then you're in and I'm talking for like, 10 reps, something like that. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that strength and mass is necessarily your goal for that lift anymore. I think that you should be spending more of your time at that point on, the straddle planche push-ups and some of the more specific things.
But that's exactly where I was at, because I was doing 80 kilo push-ups for like 5 reps plus, I think.
Right.
And I was 60. Back then, 60
yeah,
kilos.
I know.
I even did a push-up with you on my back. Remember when you said, get up? Yes. I was like, okay. I just pushed up.
That was in Takado's room, I think.
Yeah, it was in the hotel. Yeah,
that was such a trip.
We got to find that footage.
Oh, I still have all that. It's uploaded somewhere on the
okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically when you start making that transition
right.
to skill-specific stuff. And even though I can still pack on a lot more muscle.
Like there's certain things, like Yad still needs bigger biceps, which he's building. He needs bigger anterior deltoids, and he needs bigger chest.
I feel like I need a much bigger serratus.
That's going to come with a lot of this other work.
Yeah,
it's very and the overhead press is a big part of that too.
Bro, you're not proud of my biceps though?
Dude, your biceps
15 inch.
I know. They've gotten so much bigger over the last 2 months.
I think I can put on 1 inch, but that's it, bro.
It doesn't matter. The goal is that you really do need them to be about as big as you can get them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look at
there's a lot of reasons for that, but
yeah,
it's not worth getting into without extensive visual aids. But
no, I get it. I just what I noticed between Yuri's and my physique is our arms are big, but his torso is so much bigger.
Oh, he's
like thick. So much wider, so much more.
He's got a different. You guys have a fundamentally different build.
We do, but our arms are very similar in a way. I don't know. We have very. I just looked at the pictures. Well, I mean, we have very thin wrists.
He's put together different. His
forearms are bigger though.
Yeah,
his forearms are huge.
You're gonna have to do some specific work on that.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm actually adding grip training to my so even more grip training. So not like the article. I'm actually doing.
Well, you're going to have to do, stuff. Like some of the stuff that I've got in mind is like, you got to understand that the standing barbell curls are one of the most productive exercises known to man. And
standing barbell curls? What do you mean?
Yeah, so there's
the one that Boss Beppin was talking about.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay.
No. He's talking. No? So I don't remember his whole post. I mean, I don't remember everything. But so one of the things, the supported wrist roller, that's a different thing. That's also a very good exercise. It's different. It actually targets the carpi muscles more than it targets the digitorum muscles, whereas the barbell curl with hands.
Are you talking about the bicep curl?
No, I'm talking about
the finger curls.
You stand up with the bar behind your thighs and you close your fists and then curl the wrists, and you can really do both of those things at the same time. You're going to get more strength and
I know what
size
you
out of
mean.
that than any other single exercise for the flexor muscles. And that
I
includes
I
for the
know
wrist
exactly what
and
you
for the
mean, yeah.
fingers.
Is that what you call them? Standing barbell curl?
Standing wrist curl.
Yeah, I think it's standing wrist curl.
It's a standing barbell wrist curl.
Standing barbell wrist curl.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Let's
It's
see.
like these names are
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're not
Yeah, I see.
creative.
They're not.
They're not
creative.
creative.
No, I see what you mean. That's a good one. I do something similar now, but not. I don't do the wrist flexion
Mm-hmm.
part.
Yeah, you got to do that. You have to. You're wasting your time if you don't.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
I learned something. Thanks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
no
know.
worries. I mean, these are
So
things you don't
basically,
really
do
think
that
about.
plus some extension work, and then you're
Yeah.
actually good for
And
your
then I would
core.
do for you, you need pronation work. You need a lot of pronation
Pronation
work. Yeah.
Why?
Because you need to protect your elbows.
Okay.
Yeah. The pronator is one of the only things that can take stress off of the elbow ligaments.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading on that. I think it's one of the. I'm
You'll
reading
see it.
biomechanical book.
I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
What are you
Biochemical.
talking about? Biochemical book. Now I'm reading a biomechanical book, and it's actually going through every muscle functional wise, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. There were so many things I missed, like
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that
you
I just
can't.
didn't know.
Yeah,
like,
no,
oh,
like
shit.
med school's not enough time.
No, med school does not teach that at all.
No, they don't. It's not relevant. It's not relevant for medical practice.
No, unfortunately.
You
But
know.
good thing I'm doing that myself. So
Yep. And that's the thing.
All right,
Like just
let's-
knowing what's what really lets you target it in.
yeah.
So what's our
That's
next?
our next question by Stefan van der Klei. It's a
Mhm.
Dutch. He says, "Hi, in podcast one, hi, in podcast one, Cole was introduced, but Yad
Yeah.
is still a bit in the shadows. Ooh, can you tell us something about yourself and how you met Josh, and what is the Dutch connection with Josh and all these Dutch athletes? Thanks, thanks, Stefan.
Yad
A
is the
curious Reddit
connection.
ever.
Yeah, let's.
I am the
let's hear
connection.
it.
It's me. It's basically our story is pretty cool. Gymnastic bodies. Back when I was 14, I asked a bunch of questions, and there was this one moderator called Joshua Nademan who always answered in essays, as you guys can imagine. And I just kept asking questions, and he kept answering them, and it was pretty cool. I would never read them fully because it was too much. My attention span was much shorter than now. But anyway, he helped me a lot. He was actually the only guy that helped me at Gymnastic Bodies. If I think back to it, you were the only guy who actually gave good advice. Because all the other guys was like,
But you only picked like the pieces that you wanted to deal with.
I was only like reading, like cool. Just do planche. Okay, cool. I'll do planche.
Like, oh damn it.
Anyway, so like 3 years later, eventually a lot of stuff happened in Gymnastic Bodies. I won't get into it. But I reached out to Josh on Facebook. I was like, yo, dude, thanks for helping me. Like, that's really awesome. And he said, yeah, no problem. So how are you doing now? We talked a little bit about training. And then he said, you know what? I'll help you with your training. I was like, what? Like, you'll help me with training? What? And so Josh started coaching me. I still don't get why, but he did. And I got super strong within 1 year because I couldn't get a full planche. I was plateaued for 4 years, I think. Yeah, 4 years. And then you taught me, had a full planche in 1 year after your training. And then we kept getting stronger. And then I said, hey, I'm going to do mat school. And he's like, cool. Okay, let's join Lepco Fitness. I was like, okay, cool. And then Lepco Fitness came to me.
So much got left out of that story. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you go.
All right, yeah. I'm going to share embarrassing details. So
No, we don't need to.
Yeah, you got it a little bit, because it's real talk. Like the, so what you got to realize that, Yad, just like I was back then, and a lot of us, and I think almost everybody, you get interested.
biceps.
You get interested. I had big biceps back then, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But the, I also didn't have to work for them. I mean, they just showed up. So they
we
came in the mail one day. No, actually, so my dad, even at like 87, has big biceps and doesn't even work out. So there's things that come from your parents. And within 4 months of working out, I had 17-inch arms. So what are you going to do?
What are you gonna do about it?
That was me. Well, I also had been in the gym since I was 5, and then I stopped when I was 13, and I just kept riding bikes and doing stuff, and then I went back to the gym when I was 17, and within 4 months of being back, I just got huge. and I was just eating everything and working out, 3-4 days a week. And when you do that, you grow. So there's obviously more to it, but not that much more. So anyways, for years, Yad would, make some progress and get hurt, and make some progress and get hurt. And most of our correspondence was really about like, okay, here's why that happened. You got to do things differently. And he would take like one piece of that, and just the one piece that like sat well with him, and he would do it. And then it wouldn't work because he didn't do the whole thing. And so he just got stuck for years because of that. And then I got tired of helping because, when you put your time and your effort and your knowledge and your brain power into somebody, and they basically just leave most of it outside in the rain, then you devalue yourself. You're being disrespectful to yourself if you keep doing that. You just got to let them move on and be themselves, and you can't help everybody. It's just life. They have to want to be helped. And so one day he finally, we hadn't talked in like a year and a half. And, and I can show you the Facebook conversation. It was like,
cool. We got it.
I really want to move forward. And yeah, it's like, I'm tired of getting hurt. I know that like I haven't been, whatever. And look, Yad's always been very sincere. He's never been a douche. He's always been a good dude. He's always had a great attitude. And, there's just certain things that like over the years I recognized I liked him. It was just frustrating. And I got it. It's like, look, it's just, you're young, you're doing what you want. And, it's very hard to step away from what you want and to do what you're told. And it's very difficult. It's hard for me. It's hard for everybody. But he got tired of getting hurt, and he just had gone through so much and been so frustrated that he was ready to let go. And I told him, I said, look, I'm only going to do this one more time. So if we're going to do this and you can't stick with it, just come back in a year. Because if we do it now and the same thing happens again, I'm out forever. And then he did what he needed to do and made incredible progress, really surprised himself, and then got too excited and hurt himself. And
hey, but I had the full planche, so it was
you did.
Cool.
You absolutely did. Yeah, I mean, he made great progress, and he's like, he's doubting. He's like, God, I don't know, man. I mean, I know I'm getting stronger. I can see it. I'm getting bigger, and he wasn't eating enough either. And that was another big struggle that took a long time to really get in. Because guys, it is hard. It is hard to make yourself eat enough to really grow. And but he still made great progress. And And so then we decided, like I said, okay, here's how we're going to recover. I get it. You guys, and now you've shown yourself like this works so well that you've actually got to be careful with what you do with this new power you have.
Yeah.
You've got to get used to it.
My whole mindset changed after that injury. I know it was both my elbows.
Yeah.
Both my elbows got injured, and then my whole mindset changed.
And that's where things changed. We said, well, I want to put this thing together. And
but also to put it in perspective how much it changed. Because remember, I was at Josh's place for 3 weeks, and we were planching every now and then. And then he said, "Yo, yeah, do a full planche and rings." It's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not prepared for that. It was like, I was the one saying no to planche, whereas the old Yad was gonna be like, okay. Yeah. But now this time it was me like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm cool. It's like, what? No, you're gonna do full planche. You had to actually push me to finally. Yeah, because
it's like I'm paying attention. I know where you're at.
Yeah, so I bet I think I did a full planche on rings.
You
not
did.
a super good one.
You didn't know how to balance.
Yeah, because it
had been forever.
Yeah, it had been forever, basically. But I remember also you were like doing some homework, and then I made that video where I did an iron cross, and I pulled back up. Like the eccentric was as fast as the concentric. They were both just 1-1. Like, okay, I'm strong. Like,
yeah.
That was just the moment. I was like, okay, I'm strong now. And then my whole mindset was like, okay, now I'm like very conservative. So
and you have to be. You have to save. You have to build a body that has a little bit of cushion in it, so that on the competition day, when you actually do have to take things further than is safe, you haven't wasted that. It's still in the tank. You know, you're not walking around with extra damage. You're healthy. You're able to go in as best you can, and you're able to push with a lower chance of injury. Doesn't mean you won't get hurt, but it's a lower chance, and that's what you got to do for yourself. And that's kind of what Lab Coat was born out of. It's like, look, we're going to take these things, we're going to start putting them together and teach people how to get these kind of results, and really better, because you know, there's only so much that you can do for each individual. But when you start pulling a lot of success stories together, people start buying in. And so the goal was, Yad started training people, and he's like, hey, I want to do this. Yeah. And he's like, look, the guys they're loving what they're getting out of this. It's amazing. Like, you don't understand. There's this guy. He's like, I forget how many centimeters Sebastian is. A lot.
2 meter 3.
And like, for you American people, that's 6'8", and he's, you know, Yad. So the way that Yad described him was like, dude, I think I found Brawley. I think he's the legend.
I actually said that.
It's like, what?
You know what the coolest thing, guys, is he started at 110 kilo. I think maybe a little bit less. 108 kilos. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's 132.
He showed me his scale like 137 or something, almost 140.
No, he's 132.
Yeah, I think he's cut back a little now.
But he doesn't and he doesn't even train legs that much because he's afraid to become 160.
He's one of the guys. He's got a true strongman build.
Yeah, he could totally.
He does not have a gymnast build. He has a strongman build.
Because he told me, it was like, oh, whenever I do one squat session, my legs increase in such an immense amount of size. Yeah. I just can't do it. I would not ever be able to planche if I start training legs.
Yeah,
and his legs are still huge.
Oh, dude, yeah, like, and you know, it's going to take him forever to be able to do that, and because he's just the arms are super long. Even when he's light, he's very heavy, and the inability to trim the legs down makes things a lot harder.
We measured, by the way, his arms. I don't know if you want to know how big they are.
Sure.
50 centimeters.
That's like 20 inches.
That is 20 inches, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And his forearms were, I think, 40 centimeters.
I believe that.
Which is 15.8 inches.
You know what's funny? That's about how big mine were.
Oh, damn. And you're like a legend.
My arms were almost as big as my biceps.
Yeah, you were one of those weird
and depending on the angle, they were bigger. It was weird.
Yeah, but that's Sebastian for you.
Yeah, oh, he's such a beast. He's not even he doesn't even do that much stuff. Like like he does train properly, but like, you know what I mean? He's in like a postgraduate program, and he's doing a lot of other things.
Super busy. Olaf, however, is like can't even.
He's Captain Europe. Like, when I look at him, I just think like this is Captain Europe. That's what he is.
Bro, I saw Captain America the other day. I was like, you're nothing compared to Olaf.
I know. I
looked at him and was like, oh, you're pretty skinny, dude, compared to Olaf.
Yeah. Olaf looks like a superhero now.
I can't look at Marvel people anymore because they're all so small compared to my two friends here.
It's craziness, man.
Sebastian and Olaf are so much bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. They can't carry planets, but still they're bigger.
Yeah, and this is how it happened. You know, Yad started talking to these people, training them, and then he's like, look, everybody's getting great results. What do you think? And we started strategizing a little bit, and I figured this is a great way for Yad to get some coaching experience and start learning how to personalize things for different things. And so we'd get together and we'd talk about like the different stuff going on. And we started making some plans, and eventually we were able to get Cole involved, and Cole kept us organized enough to actually make Lab Coat happen.
Yep.
But that was it. I mean, it all just came from doing things that I cared about and saying, look, this Yad character is a good dude. We're going to give this one more shot, and I'll let it's like the ball's in your court, and you'll either step up or not. And I'm not invested either way. And then, I want to see you do well. That's always been like my bottom line is I like seeing people do well. And he did well, and he, you know, got himself under control. And so I said, you know what, let's keep learning. And he wanted to know how the stuff was working. So we started, you know, teaching, and then he started going to med school and he learned more. And, you know, then recently he went to the, I don't know if that was what with Israel.
It was a sports medicine conference in Helsinki. And then Mike Israel was there, James Hoffman, James Krieger.
Yeah.
If I'm missing anyone, sorry.
Some people at the top of the heap, you know, they're really, really good.
It's pretty
and
awesome.
This was Yad's first like formal exposure to these really high level people, and honestly to like the fundamentals of how people like that approach training. And
yeah, it was really good to have because
you got to have it. Yeah.
But now I know how to study that stuff.
Right.
And medicine helps a ton, bro.
Yep.
Because I'm reading these books, I'm like, okay, yeah. I don't have to look up anything because I just know.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, that's cool. It's like,
yep.
I'm burning through these books like crazy.
It is.
And
you know, the hard part is like
to read.
They are, and it you know, just it takes time to put things into context. And it's one of the great things about it is that there's a lot of room for growth, and no matter how good you are, there's always a new challenge. And it helps keep things fun, you know. And
but it has really helped me.
Brian.
Huge amount. Like with these 3-4 months, I've learned more than I've learned in
this is
5
Brian.
years. Oh,
He's obviously not the Hulk that he was. How much are you weighing now?
I don't know. It'll vary anywhere between 180 to 200.
Okay.
Depends how many pies I eat.
Depends on how many pies.
Can you hear me?
I don't know. I'll take my earplugs out temporarily. I think I had to.
Hey, sup, Brian?
You got it right. It's pies.
Yeah, so this is Brian. He was one of the first 2 guys that I ever took to the gym outside of the Navy. What did we do? You remember like when we were just basically living in Andrew's basement and just like, what was that? Because I never really, like, what was that like? I mean, like we had a ball because we were just playing video games all the time and working out at 2 a.m., but.
Well, I mean, for the most part, one day, you know, melts into the next because there's not necessarily a set schedule on any of that. So it's just working out, playing video games. About the time you feel, you go to the gym again, off to the gym again.
Yep.
So
it was time to go. And like, what was the eating like?
Constant.
It's like infused.
We were eating all the time, every 2 or 3 hours. I was like, all right, guys, pause button. Let's go upstairs, get a plate of rice and chicken. And that's what we did.
That is the secret to getting big. You got to eat.
I did not coach him on this. I'm just saying, like, this is not like
he just figured it out, you know.
But it is hard, you know. It's you really do have to push yourself, especially on the food. It can be very difficult to make yourself eat. And because Brian went from like 140, 145 to like 190. Andrew went from I think 135 to 170, and it was crazy. Like they did not look like the same people. Brian looked like a fucking like Hulk. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, I get these weird lats, so I'd always end up walking like this. The guy at the
Dude,
gym
that's
made fun
awesome.
of me about it. It's like you look like a cop, like you got the belt around you the time. I can't help it. It's just the way I am.
Yeah, and like Andrew has like the Armani body build.
Yeah, it's like
know?
perfectly.
Yeah. He's
Square,
got very
straight across shoulders.
Yeah, he's got much more narrow hips than I do.
Yeah.
And he's got pretty big pecs for his frame too. So like his chest really like pops out. So it was a lot of fun, you know. They did great. And then after that, you know, they just did other things, but for that like 5 or 6 months, that's what we did. So
that's awesome.
Yep. And it was full body 3 days a week. And it was a lot of volume. I mean, the workouts were like 2 hours long. We brought like a crap ton of jelly beans to keep us going. And it was brutal. It was brutal, but it worked. There's no way we could have done that without the jelly beans. I mean,
or solo. I mean, having somebody else alongside
yes,
helps enormously. That keeps you going. It's that extra 1 to 10% above what you think you can do. That makes an enormous amount of difference.
Yep. And we did like 2 months of 15 reps, 2 months of 10 reps, and 2 months of like 5 to 7 reps. And which, there's not
hypertrophy.
Yeah. It was just a very like, we're here to grow, and we're going to go through our rep ranges, and we're going to spend 2 months on each rep range. And, that's basically exactly what we have lab coat people do when it's time to grow. And, there's a lot of reasons why, but there's a reason why everybody's growing.
Yep. Works, bro.
All right.
That's
well,
awesome.
I just wanted to get that. We'll get back to, we got some more questions to answer, but I saw Brian walk by.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Thanks a bunch,
introduce him to the crew.
You bet.
All right, bud.
Awesome.
All right. Sorry about that interruption, but I think that...
that was cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like I'm almost never actually in the same state as my friends anymore. So, he's up here helping out. My wife had our first baby a couple weeks ago, and
that was actually one of the questions. Nicholas Massman was asking, "How's the little one?"
Dude, he's good. He's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's big. Like, you look at him. I mean, we'll see if Morgan walks by. I'll see if I can get her to bring him in. But he's got huge forearms. Like why? Yes. Like, they're just, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's baby fat, and then your finger goes in about like this much, just like a little bit, and you're like, oh, that's muscle. All right. It's a good thing you weren't a girl.
Place your bets, guys. When is that kid gonna planche?
I'm guessing by 5.
I was about to say the same thing. 5. Yeah. 5 is when he'll pledge.
I was gonna ride a horse before. I mean, he's probably gonna be jumping over things on like ponies before he's planching. Now, when is he gonna planche on a horse? I don't know. Maybe 7.
Ooh, that's a 7 thing. Man, I just hope my child will also be that crazy. He will.
You just gotta, the deal is like, you just gotta turn things into games. We've already got like baby dumbbells and stuff, and
yeah, exactly. And then just make them heavier without them noticing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the trick right there. It's like they don't know.
There's a new one.
Yeah, and then they don't
eventually
know.
You have like things. 60 kilos. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just playing around.
Yep.
Yeah, and just do planches in front of them, and then they'll be like, "Oh, what's that? Like this, Dad?" I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, you just just play, have a good time, and then you figure out what they need, and just do little by little. And when you actually know how to train human bodies, it's really easy, and you're in control of their food, so you can get them the protein that they need. Like, this isn't complicated.
Oh, it's like, that's so awesome. Let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
2 more questions left. This one's from Demetrius Manures. He asks, what do you think about training multiple planche progressions, isometrics, in the same microcycle a week? 2 examples will be, 1, you have 2 days where you work the progression you can currently hold for a decent amount of time, an event stuck for instance, and another day, a heavy day, you work an assistant version of the next progression you can't currently hold, so a band-assisted travel planche for this example. That's one of...
I think I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're not overdoing it in general.
Now let's read the second part. The second example is again with 3 days a week, but this time you spread the intensity even more with a day working the tuck, then the advanced tuck, and then finally the shreddle.
That, I think, is overthinking it a little bit. Hey. Where's
hey,
Lisa?
Morgan.
We have 30 minutes for you.
I know. I was watching the clock. Thanks. We got the 30-minute warning before I got to start getting my dad ready to head out so we can get our haircuts.
Let's wrap this up then. He says this thinking is influenced by daily undulated periodization.
I know it is. That's for strength training. That's
it's for strength training.
Yeah,
but this also works. What he's saying works, and I don't think it's necessarily bad if you have the time.
I think that you'd be better off spending most of your time on something that is in your learning zone. So the reason that I don't think that those are particularly good ideas is that, and this gets into beyond what most people know, but like, I don't want you to be spending time essentially, choking tissue off if you're not getting something out of it.
Because remember, skill's about learning.
Yeah, so like those tuck planges are a great part of your warm up if you need them. But if you're able to easily hit a good straddle or a good, I mean, I don't, you guys probably know by now, I hate straddles. I think that they're a waste of time.
I don't.
That's fine. That's fine. Personal differences.
Yeah,
you notice. What did Olaf say yesterday? I think. I
don't remember.
One leg in, one leg out on the tuck leg full straddle feels better than anything else.
Yeah, but that's Olaf.
Yeah, that's gonna be everybody once they get used to it.
Oh, yeah. I generally say don't do straddle. Reese.
Hello. Hey, buddy.
God,
we are tired. See these little forearms.
Little, you're bigger than mine. Damn, those are big.
There's not very much pudge there. You don't know until you feel them, and you're like, Jesus. It's pretty much all muscle.
Aww.
I know, buddy. He's got a big old head too. He's only like 3 weeks old.
4 weeks.
Damn, that's so awesome, dude.
In 2 days? There we go.
In 2 days.
Not quite a month.
Not quite a month. Getting there.
He's got super long arms, like they go down to his knees.
He's got monkey
Is he gonna be a yard?
He might be.
What's that?
Yeah, he's like, is he going to be a yod with like abnormally long arms? It's like, he might be.
Solid chance, yeah.
That's cool.
He's got big knuckles too.
Yeah, big knuckles, big feet.
Gotta find me a wife, dude.
Well, just do what you're doing and meet cool people and take your time and don't rush into it. It is very easy to find a wife. In fact, it's almost as easy to find a wife as it is to find an ex-wife. So I would stay away from finding ex-wives.
Well said.
It takes a long time to figure out who the ex-wife is and who the wife is. A lot of people marry their ex-wives without realizing it, because they're not paying attention and they're thinking more about sex and all this other crap than they are about whether or not they can actually live together long term and like grow.
Yep. And that,
which is fine. It's just gotta figure it out eventually, preferably without a lot of child support and alimony. I'm just.
All right, let's get back to the question.
All right.
Basically, dude, just what I would say is, whatever makes you learn the movement the best.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't want to be putting too many restrictions in as long as you're not exceeding the volume that you should be doing.
Don't get injured and don't do anything that's worthless.
Yeah. Because sometimes you just I will say, like, if you're to the point where a tuck planche is warm up, you're probably going to get a lot more out of just doing leans.
Exactly.
Like your freestanding holds should be in a learning zone. And like, if you guys are familiar at all with that concept, it's like the 3 circles, and there's like this area that you've already mastered and you really don't get anything out of spending time there. And then there is this, second circle where everything outside of there is too much for you. And it's the space
like
between
jumping
the two
into
circles.
A planche.
Right. That's a waste of your time.
You're not learning. You're just jumping. It's not. Please stop.
You got to learn how to hold first. And then from there, there's a time when some of that can be okay. But it is not when you can't
you
even
need to be able. You need to be able to spend time in a movement.
Well, it's like, okay, so if you actually know how to control your body and you're doing like bar swings and you're able to pause in a good planche position, that's one thing. But you have to have a good planche position. That means you need a good lean. That means you need to be able to support yourself at a reasonably deep position. You should be able to basically do flat tuck planche push-ups without your knees being up past your hips. Like, you should be in you got to have certain things already in place for that to be productive. So there's a time and a place for these things. And if you do them too early, then they're outside your learning zone, and all you're doing is interfering with what you're supposed to be doing for progress. And that's the only cautionary statement that I would make there. I do think that there's value in not doing hard stuff too often, and depending on how big you are, that's more and more important. As you get bigger, like, taller than 5'8", heavier than 160 pounds, you've really got to you got to start taking more care of yourself and being more methodical. When you're a 6 foot and above, and you're like 200 pounds and up, you've really just got to treat your body with a lot of respect, or you're going to ruin it. And you can't really fix stuff once it's jacked up beyond a certain point. So those are the things that you want to just kind of keep in mind. As long as you're moving forward, what you're doing is working, unless you're getting hurt, in which case you need to reevaluate. Like that's
good.
Really always the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do different intensities on different days, that's good. I do think there's value in having a harder day once a week.
I do think so too, yeah. In experience.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the last question so you can get your hair cut.
When you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so next question.
Last question is by Boss Batman.
Okay.
A friend.
Yep.
Intermediate level athletes, coaches, and trainers sometimes debate the high risk, high reward nature of some ring elements. For example, some say training for and ultimately doing an iron cross is perhaps too risky for a casual athlete if they are not professional, getting paid to perform, or are a higher level gymnast. A second example will be a German hang pullout to an inverted hang with a supinated grip. When I do this element, I am nervous
due to do that anyway.
Yeah, so when
That's
I do
stupid.
it, I am
even
nervous
professionals
due to
don't do that.
I'll
No,
get
they
to that
don't.
in a second. I'll get to that in a second because I have a very strong point about that. For example, I also hate back levers, but that's just me. Okay, but anyway, when I do this element, I am nervous due to the intensity and risk of a severe injury. I've been advised to do this element with pronated grip, which is more comfortable and less intense.
Yep.
But for now, I stopped doing it altogether. The third example of a strength feat will be the one-arm pull-up or the one-arm chin-up. Does the LCF staff have advice or opinions for training and performing high-risk, high-reward skills for strength feats?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I can't demonstrate, but I'll talk Yad through it, and he'll demonstrate at some point in the future. It's all about whether something is high risk or not is really saying, is this outside of your current capabilities? Like, are you approaching this in a safe way? Are you ready? Have you prepped properly? So those are the things that are what you got to keep in mind, So there's always risk involved anytime you try and do something that requires more strength, because by nature you're closer to your limits. That's always how it is. But if you're methodical and you value good form over being able to produce a 10 out of 10 effort in terms of difficulty, then you're not going to get hurt. It's very difficult to get hurt when you're paying attention to how you feel and when you're going in with cautious, steady progression. So, like for example, with the iron cross stuff, you take care of your elbows by making sure that you're doing good pronator work, and you never point the elbow all the way down or all the way up. You always have sort of like that in between angle, and when you do those things, you're typically fine. And you make sure that you just have a good, smart approach, and that your basic strength is where you actually build strength. And your cross training is when you're just learning to use it and you're letting your body slowly get accustomed to the pressure. And you do that, you're not going to hurt yourself. I also don't think cross is very difficult, in the grand scheme of things. Now, as far as the pull-out, we were really talking about is like a, kind of like a 360 pull, straight body ice cream maker. I guess there's 1,000 ways to name it. And I hate most of them. But so you're in a German hang. You're in a German hang. And you want to get back up to where you're upside down. So, one, you should never be afraid of tucking up during that. Reduce the leverage. Put it to a place where you're comfortable. That should be obvious. But the second thing is that your arm is going to rotate in the socket. Like if you're hanging upside down, and I'm like this, right? I don't want to be hanging upside down with my elbows pointing at the ground. I'm going to tear something. So you want to still maintain a good, safe position. And as you're pulling out, you want to be rotating into a more neutral position so that at the top, you're hanging upside down with a neutral fist. And at the bottom, as you go down, you are slowly rotating, but only as much as you need to. And that's really the key, is that you're not trying to go for extreme like rotation or supination or any of that crap. That's how you hurt yourself. That's part of why my bicep tendon popped off. Was I wasn't paying attention to something. It wasn't really on my mind. And now that it is, I have added a couple of things to certain guidelines for some of our assistance work. So that's kind of what I have to say. It's about the approach. Is there some risk? Sure. But like, if you take your time, you're going to be able to do a lot of things. And, Boss Batman is older than a good number of the people. I think he's 48. So, he's got to be more careful than I do. I have to be more careful than Olaf does. And Olaf has to be more careful than Yad does. So there's this spectrum of risk reward. But as long as you take your time and you don't try and push, you'll usually surprise yourself with what you're able to do. You just have to be committed and you have to be willing to put work in and to not see instant results over like 3 months. Like that's not realistic. You have to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process of continually going in and doing your job each day. And if you do that, you'll stick with it for years and you'll accomplish things and people will look at you on YouTube. That's just kind of how it works. So that's what I would say. It's contextual. Is it higher risk? Sure. And it's higher risk for him than it is for some other people, but he's also in great shape and he's not a giant frame. So I think that he's certainly still well within sort of the ranges where I think that he could do all of that stuff. It's just,
I don't have anything to add to that. Only thing I wanted to say is I just hate back levers. That's all I have to say. I've never got injured from it. I just hate it.
They're a low yield. They're a low yield exercise, especially as a static element.
Yeah, and there's
because you pass through it. Like if you're going to do German hangs by nature, you're going to be passing through a tuck back lever or a flat tuck back lever or whatever. So it's not like you need to do anything at all to get them. You just have to.
You get them for free.
Yeah, you get them.
They're not that cool to begin with.
Yeah,
and they're high risk for a pretty cool move.
Yeah, they as far as like using time wisely goes, they're really not anywhere on that list of things that are good use of time.
I would never program them in anywhere.
No, not like the only time I would do it is if somebody said, well, I'm going to go do a street workout routine and this is a part of my thing. Even then I'd say, all right, well, can you already do it? Oh, you can? Cool. We don't need to practice it. You'll do it during your routine practice and that's it.
You probably won't. People won't. The thing is, even if you do them, people won't even be impressed by it.
No, they won't. They'll be impressed if sit there and like transition in and out, catch something there, and like then do a one arm.
That's pretty cool.
That still impresses people, but like that's it's totally different.
I just hate. I have something against back lever. I don't know why. Because I actually have a video of me somewhere on the internet.
I never had to train for it.
No, me neither. I have a video somewhere on the internet where I spend a minute in a back lever while singing a song.
Yeah, you're also like, you got some interesting abilities. So
yeah, but it was funny. It was like back in the old days. I was like 17. I did a back lever.
You were really light.
I was 56 back then. I'm still light. I'm 63.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like a light bastard. I could also just hold front lever and back lever forever. It's just like
Yeah.
one of those things I just could do. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
and then other people
mutant.
are going to be listening to this like, look at these guys.
Fuck
these
you,
jerks.
dog.
You know,
This
like
bitch
I can't
asshole.
do that. And it's like, it's cool because it doesn't matter. And if
No,
you,
back lever doesn't matter.
yeah, it's like if for whatever that, you know, that's another thing. That's like kind of like when fighters hear the crowd boo. And so they change what they're doing to try and please people who don't know them, are never going to see them on the street and say, hey, they're not a part of their lives, but they hear them make some noise. And all of a sudden they say, well, I'm going to stop wrestling and start punching. And then all of a sudden they get knocked the fuck out. And now their career is jacked up. And nobody cares. They walked away and couldn't care less. It's the same thing. People talk shit on the internet. They don't know you. They don't care about you. They're not going to give you $1. They don't care at all. All they like to do is get under your skin. And they're little people who try and make themselves pretend they feel big for a moment by making somebody else feel small. They're sad excuses for human beings. And if you let them influence you, then you're giving them something they don't deserve. So I would not in any way let anything you ever see make you think that back lever is important. It is not.
I love that quote. I will quote you on that.
I don't know. Just came out as usual.
I love it because I hate back lever. All right. This is awesome. I will treasure this episode forever. Episode 7. All right, I think we'll wrap it up right now.
Okay.
You gotta get a haircut. Your dad too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I hope you guys like this episode. Thank you for sending in your questions. As usual, keep doing that. We had a blast answering them, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Like, I don't have anything to add to that. I'm terrible at these, like, you know.